Hello and welcome to the Controller Chronicles HD. In this installment, I'm talking about a controller that is very similar to another controller I've already talked about. So this is the Super Famicom Super Hori Commander controller for the Super Famicom. It'll also work on the Super Nintendo in North America or in Europe. This thing is a turbo controller that is very similar in size. In fact, it uses the exact same size as the actual Super Famicom controller. It's very cool because it's just so similar. One of the advantages this thing has is built-in turbo fire switches for every button, including the start button. Here is this a slow motion button similar to the NES Advantage or other joysticks like that. That gives you actually two different modes for the slow motion for two different rates of rapid fire start. This controller is very good, but a lot of people have been wondering how it compares to another famous Super Nintendo Turbo controller, that is the Ascii pad. Well, I thought of this video I'd talk about the Ascii pad and how it compares to the Hori Super Hori Commander controller for the Super Famicom. This here is the Ascii pad, made in North America for the Super Nintendo, and in Japan it's also sold as the Ascii pad. The Ascii pad was made by Asciiware as opposed to Hori. Asciiware and Hori have a long history of being rival companies, so it should only be fitting that these controllers are essentially similar, but they have subtle differences that one might prefer one versus the other. Similar to the Hori Super Commander controller, this controller has turbo fire buttons for all of the face buttons, including start. However, the main differences between the controllers is size. The Ascii pad is a little bit larger than the Hori Super Commander controller is, and it's not just the fact that the buttons that it has this like little hump on the top of here. If you look very closely, you'll see that the D-pads and the face buttons are a little bit more spread out than they are in the original controller, which uses the same control design as a real Super Famicom or Super Nintendo controller. Because of this, if you have adult hands, your hands will be a little bit more separated than they might be if they use the other controller, and it might be a little bit more comfortable. However, one of the things that you'll notice almost immediately when you compare these two controllers is the D-pads that are very similar, although on the Hori joypad, you have a D-pad that sticks out far more than this D-pad does. Because of that, when you're using this D-pad just feels, I don't know, a little bit better. Well, this one feels more inward, like the Game Boy Advance SP D-pad has. Also, the same situation with the face buttons. The face buttons are very similar on the two controllers, but again, on the Ascii pad, they are a little bit more indented, and this one, they stick out a bit more, and they're more, actual buttons that you can press. The shoulder buttons are, again, very different. On a real Super Nintendo and the Hori Commander controller, the buttons, feel as normal buttons. But on this controller here, although the buttons start here, the actual press down here. So if you press here, nothing will happen. So you have to press at the very extreme edges. This isn't a big deal, but it is a fact that you will have to, get used to when you're using this controller. Whereas if you use one of these controllers, you can really press it down wherever you want. The turbo fire switches are very similar on both controllers. You have, again, three different modes here. You have off, on, and then, automatic fire. Automatic fire is essentially the buttons will simply auto fire on their own, and you don't have to even press a button, which is sort of like the ultimate lazy man's way of playing a video game, because it's playing a video game where all you have to do is just move the D-pad around. Yay, exciting, right? Not so on the Hori Commander. On the Hori Commander has two different fire rates. It has turbo and then high turbo. High turbo is essentially just turbo with maybe 15 or 16 shots per second as opposed to 8 or 6. Because of that, you do still have to press the buttons down, and that's basically how they differ. Again, this controller is a little bit more common than this one, because this one was only ever sold in Japan, and if you're going to pick up one of these, you know, expect to pay, I don't know, $20 to $30 per controller. Whereas this one you might be able to find for, you know, 10, 15, something like that. So, although it is cheaper, I think that this controller overall, that is the Hori, Super Hori Commander controller, is the overall better controller over the Ascii pad. Although the Ascii pad is still a decent controller. Don't get me wrong, this is not, I'm not speaking bad about this controller. But if you have the choice, I would recommend picking up the Hori Super Turbo Commander. There is also a Japanese model of this controller, again, because it was Japan exclusive, that has a 6-button face layout similar to the Sega Genesis. Because of that, the shoulder triggers are moved down to the face, and you simply have, like, you have Y, X, L, and B, A, R, something like that. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, let me know, and yet again, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.